So is Songs of a Lost World the best Cure album ever? Frankly, I don't know. I am not a big enough Cure fan to qualify that, but I will say it's my favorite Cure album. It's the one I've enjoyed listening to the most, and I really want to get into why. But before I do, I want to go on a little personal journey talking about my life with the band. I'm a dude in his mid to late 40s, and I've spent most of my life being asked the question, do you like the Cure? And my answer has changed over the years. So if that interests you, buckle up. If it doesn't, you can just skip ahead. I don't edit my videos, so I don't know, I can't give you a time, but I'll change the angle slightly on the camera. So when you see the angle change, that means we're into the video. But if not, thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor. You know why? Why is it that I've said for most of my life that I don't really like the Cure? Frankly, the answer is probably toxic masculinity. Maybe you regret not switching. But let me sort of tell you a story, weave a narrative for you. I do a thing called the weave. So I had a friend way back in elementary school named Derek. I lost touch with him. I went to a different middle school, and then we got back together in high school. And it was one of those things where, like, we were always cool with each other. And we had, like, you know, we hung out once in a sort of a play date, and it's sort of like it just didn't click, you know, like we both liked each other, we both thought that each other were cool, but we just like weren't friends, you know. But I'm Facebook friends with him now. I see he's married. Every once in a while I want to thank him for giving me the first bagel I ever ate. I don't know, he had like a frozen bagel. Like, what is this magical food? But the one time that we hung out in high school, it was, you know, mostly based on music. He was in my band for one day. We disagreed on how rhythm guitar should be played on the song "Rudy Can't Fail." I mean, a Message to You, Rudy, by the Specials, and that was it. I was kind of a dick, most likely. Anyways, so I remember, like, very clearly, like it was yesterday, hanging around in his room and him putting on, it must have been the compilation "Boys Don't Cry" by The Cure. And I remember making fun of the drum fill. At the time, I was convinced that the drummer played the exact same drum fill for every fill. Pop, 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 pop. Anyway, you can hear it's this kind of like weird stuttered fill. And there was like just something about it that like I just didn't like, that I just didn't vibe with. Maybe it was his voice. And then the next band that he played was Depeche Mode. And again, I was like, there's just something about this that I don't like. And I've always put The Cure and Depeche Mode in that same category. And the reason that I say it has to do with toxic masculinity is I've just sort of assumed that that's just kind of music for girls. And I'm not saying that's true. I'm giving you the confused, poisoned mind of a 15-year-old Professor Skye hanging around in Belmont, Massachusetts. And what ended up happening is that there's sort of like a dichotomy, you know, and this happens a lot in music, you know, where if you like the Beatles, someone might say, okay, do you also like the Stones? And which one do you like more? Sort of like, if you like one, what do you think of the other? And to me, it was like the Smiths and the Cure were always in some kind of war, you know. One has a person named Smith, the other's the Smiths. They're both the one word, kind of a common word. They're both from England. I think he's from Blackpool, which I think is in northern England. You can tell me in the comments if you want. Sorry, the birds are pissed because I ran out of safflower. You know, and like, so I just, there was no online discourse back then, right? There was no, you know, Kendrick versus Drake, who's your top three stuff. It was just like, I don't know. I feel like the Smiths are for dudes and the Cure are for chicks. That's what I thought. And this kind of the same thing happened with Depeche Mode, where I was like, New Order is for dudes and Depeche Mode is for chicks. Listen, this is completely arbitrary. It doesn't even, frankly, make any sense. I don't know why it broke that way, not the other way. Just a couple years later, I would decide that Ministry was good and Nine Inch Nails was bad. You know, Ministry was for dudes and Nine Inch Nails was for chicks. The reason that I say it is that I think there's some kind of commonality between these acts that I rejected. A kind of emotional honesty, a kind of searching. I think I was looking for maybe more posturing, maybe more cynicism, which, you know, I think is what comes through in New Order, the Smiths, and Ministry versus Nine Inch Nails and The Cure, right? And so, anyways, I'm just kind of like going through these ideas, and let's kind of really stick on The Cure. It felt too, like, emotional. It felt too sweeping, you know? Like, I say there's like music to look out the window, like music to just sort of feel that your life is some grand adventure, and all these little tiny emotions that you have are all part of a large tapestry of human existence. At that point in my life, I was a half-assed stoic who thought, no, this is stupid, never mind, like that's kind of how I was. And there's sort of a constellation of art and artists that kind of fit into this. And this is what I want to share with you. This is why I hope you're happy that you didn't you didn't skip ahead. Because to me, it reminds me of my general feelings towards this school of art. The pre-Raphaelite school of art, late 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, right? Late 19th century art movement. And, it was in relationship. It wasn't really in relationship to any of the abstract stuff that was coming up. It was really rejecting a lot of classicism and a lot of that kind of stuffiness. And what they really believed in was having very strong figural images, usually of historical figures. And I don't know. To me, I hear an album like Disintegration, and to me it goes with a poster like this, or this famous Rossetti painting of Proserpine. It just feels like that, where it's like, I don't know. And if that makes sense to you, please tell me in the comments. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't blame you, because I'm basically talking about something virtually synesthesic, right? Where the same rejection the same way that I rejected this in favor of, I don't know, the Fauvism of Matisse. The same way that I just found this as being too feminine, too sweeping, emotional, and romantic. Interestingly, they had a term for what they were against. They were against kind of the weak painting of classicism at the time. And they called it sloshy. So that was like the main tenet of the pre-Raphaelites, was to not be sloshy. I might come back to that. I really might. And if you pay attention, you might figure out how I come back to that. So anyway, that's my kind of sense, And it made sense because... See, this is why I should edit. I just said the word sense twice. Oh no, did you come back because I changed the angle? Oh no, keep going. I'm still talking. Oh my God, my whole plan just fell through. Listen, you want to come back? The book will be down, okay? The book will be down when you come back, okay? Good. That's how you know it's safe to watch, and I'm not talking about myself. But it all makes sense, because the song Boys Don't Cry, and that was it, Boys Don't Cry. I heard that, and I was just like... And the funny thing is, I believed in crying. Like, I told my friends, I wasn't toxically masculine, but having a song that says boys don't cry, that was just too hard. But the thing is, I actually liked a lot of music in that sphere. So if you're a big Smiths fan, you have to be comfortable with questioning toxic masculinity. I was actually like a pretty big Susie and the Banshee fan. Like, I really like Susie and the Banshees, and like, it's not that far. It's pretty similar, but to my mind, that whatever Robert Smith was doing was not good enough to be like Susie Sue. Okay, that's what I thought at the time. And then, of course, the more girls that I knew, the more accurate my weird little dismissal became, because every girl that I met was a big fan of The Cure. And again, this is the poisoned thinking, right? That would somehow discredit them. I discredited Leonard Cohen for the same reason. I once said I never need to buy, as long as I know women, I never need to buy a Leonard Cohen CD. What a dick, man. Leonard Cohen's delightful. Just because they have good taste doesn't mean I have to have bad taste. And then these singles came out, Friday I'm in Love, Just Like Heaven. It really reinforced that feeling where, to a degree, The Cure became inescapable, but like not for the stuff that I like about them. Like they didn't have the singles didn't have the sweeping scope of something like Susie and the Banshees. They were just like, they were poppy with this nah, nah, nah. But over time that changed. As I got to know women better, as opposed to just be afraid of them. I'm sure I must have sat in at least one dorm room and listened to Disintegration and be like, yeah, no, this is pretty cool stuff. The album I've listened to the most by The Cure is Wild Mood Swings. my friend Annika in college, she was a big fan. She's like, Skye, you got to listen to The Cure. I'm like, all right, cool. And so I borrowed Wild Mood Swings, and I listened to it like all weekend. And for some reason, I had a giant box of Good and Fruities, which are one of the most inferior candy. I don't even know if they make them anymore. Good and Plenties are delicious. Good and Fruities are disgusting. But I have a candy problem. Like, I have a problem. If I have candy, I'll eat it, even if it's gross. And so, like, I cannot differentiate. Talk about synesthesia. When I see the album cover of Wild Mood Swings, I taste the disappointing, waxy misery of a Good and Fruity box. But it turns out that was a good album to introduce me to, because that was the beginning of their next era. That's where their drummer, Jason Cooper, joined them, who's still their drummer. I didn't understand, like, how could The Cure keep on going? And maybe this is a reason why I didn't attach to them as much. You know, I tend to like bands that are bands, you know, bands where each member is important. You know, I want to just thank Johnny Marr for refusing the Smiths reunion, because there can't be a Smiths reunion because there are 4 Smiths and only 3 are alive. And the idea that, you know, that Marcy just can't be the Smiths. Johnny Marr can't just be the Smiths, but Robert Smith can just be The Cure. And that happens. That happens to bands sometimes. It happens quite a bit. But it is like, it doesn't jibe that well with me. It doesn't feel that good to me. I prefer it to be like a band. There's some kind of cohesion there. It feels a little less like Gun for Hire. But, you know, still, I mean, they've been around for a little bit longer than I've been alive, and they've had a reasonable number of changes. He's worked with the same people for quite a while. He's been working with Reeves Gabriel, who's, Staten Island's finest guitar player, who, like, did a lot of great work with Bowie, including on the top 5 Bowie album, Outside. Would you like me to make that argument? Goddamn. I might start another channel just called Professor Skye Talks About Old Music, because I would love to school y'all about how Outside is a top 5 Bowie album. That album absolutely ruled. And as time went on, I had this sort of growing appreciation and respect for The Cure, but also hesitation. Like, also... It got reinforced really strongly by one of my favorite online cartoons, Homestar Runner, where the character of Strong Sad, who plays almost like a parody of a kind of liberal, poetic, romantic figure, has a Boys Don't Cry poster in his room. And just, that joke is so funny, and I felt like it was so funny, especially if I think I'm the same age as the people who made it. Like, if you grew up in that time, like, just what that poster communicated, how many times you see it. I like board games more than most people, and by that I mean I like to play board games more than most people do, but by that I also mean that I like to play board games more than I like most people. Anyways. And weirdly enough, in their universe, there is a band that he loves. He loves The Cure, but the other band that he loves more than anything is a band they invented, who are named Sloshy. I don't know if there's a connection there. But I'm just saying. Listen. There's a part of what I do that is intellectual, and I know that's why you're here. You're not here for my kind of tone poems and sort of, you know. But my dad was a very interesting guy, and he thought very poetically. He sort of thought in 5D. He couldn't really do anything in the 2nd or 3rd dimension, but the 5th dimension, he would sometimes have these ideas and draw things together. And I think if you have, like, Strong Sad and the Pre-Raphaelites and The Cure, like, it all kind of goes together and works really well. The other thing that happened was I became a French professor. You know, I really learned to love French, and the song that I knew, Killing an Arab, you know, I knew that song really well, is a gift to all French professors, because it's a great explanation of the book The Stranger by Albert Camus. It actually successfully communicates the estrangement and the weirdness of the book. It is an amazing song. It is an amazing example of how literature can be depicted in music. It deserves all the credit that it gets. So that ended up prompting me to buy the album Boys Don't Cry, which I would hold up, but I can't find it. I thought that I stole Wild Mood Swings from Annika, just like I stole Greatest Hits of ABBA Part 2. I'm going to hit her up on Facebook after this and see if she wants it back. She might not have CDs anymore. I think she lives in the city. So, anyways. So, Okay, so the book's down. Hey everybody, you missed a whole bunch of stories. You missed me go on a kind of poetic rant about the meaning of The Cure. But now that you're here, why is this my favorite Cure album? Because they're old and I'm down. He's old, man. He's 65 years old, and he made an album. There's a lot of albums about being young. There's a lot of albums about getting older, written by people in their 30s and 40s. And there's even a fair amount of albums at the end of people's lives. But this is an album about being 65, and I love it. It's these overly emotional feelings, like he's sort of always done, but it's for people who are 65, and I'm just really, I love it. I absolutely love this idea of writing about losing your friends at a reasonable but upsetting age, about losing your family members at a reasonable but upsetting age, about feeling the world change and not knowing how it's going to change, about feeling like you can't exert power over the world anymore because you're too old. You know, it's just great. And just musically, I think I'm past the 5-minute mark, this thing fucking rules. It fucking rules, this album. Fuck. I just swore 5 times in a row. That's how much this album, just musically, absolutely rules. 8 songs, 49 minutes, and not a single song is too long. It's ambitious, it's energetic, it's kind of fun, and it's packed with this formula of these really long intros that get you into that looking out the window of a train and feeling, I've learned to embrace that feeling. I've learned to feel a sense of joy. I've learned to feel at peace with letting music move me like that and not trying to be an edgelord cynic. And this music does this as well as anything. I said the best example of that in the entire world is the opening track to this album, Hyena. Dazzle. The stars that shine and the stars that shake. Oh my God. Have you heard that song? It just gives you goosebumps. And and as I said, one of the reasons I didn't like Robert Smith is I didn't think he could do anything that could move me like this. Until the day I was just looking through the CD booklet here. Oh yeah. There's Susie Sue. That's cool. Oh yeah, he co-wrote the song. He was in Susie and the Banshees. I didn't know. It's before the internet. You could just listen to shit. You just listen to stuff and not know what was on it. So this album is like an entire album of Dazzles. I mean, okay, they're not as good as Dazzle, but Dazzle's like a perfect song. But I love it. And I really enjoy shoegaze music, and it feels very shoegazy, or at least it gives me those feelings of shoegazy music. And hey, where would shoegaze music exist if it weren't for Disintegration by The Cure? I don't know. Maybe you could tell me if you're some music snob. But that seems like it's a giving and taking from the same source, And doesn't feel like he's trying to recapture anything. All these themes of old age, and the one word that pops up the most. Do you know the word that pops up the most on this album? I think it's used more than the. The word is end. In almost every song, he talks about the end, the impermanence of things, which is what happens as you age. Also, not for nothing, but this album cover is great. This is a wonderful album cover. It is a Yugoslavian artist from the part of Yugoslavia called Slovenia, Janez Pirnat. I think he actually lived in Croatia for the last 10 years of his life. Real Yugoslavian. The name of this piece is Bagatelle, which means scuffle or fight in French. I don't know why it's called that, but I he's an old guy. Robert Smith's an old guy. Apparently he really supports art. He really likes artists, and he gives us this kind of nice, mysterious image. And Janez Pirnat himself referred to himself as a Stone Age man, that he likes everything old as possible. I think that ties in well with this album. So let's get to it. It's actually not too cold right now. It's nice. I got my mic. If you like what you see, smash the like bucket, subscribe. AVAA is how you say awesome video as always. I will always heart those comments. And let's start with the opening track, Alone. I love it when an opening track is a single. This happened to be the first single. I love it when an opening track is more than just the first song. And I love it when a single is more than a first song, the first song you hear. I love it when it's a slice. This is a slice of the album. It is a great place to start the album, and according to Robert Smith, an interview I found somewhere, it's the track that unlocked the record. As soon as we had that piece of music recorded, I knew it was the opening song, and I felt the whole album come into focus. I'd been struggling to find the right opening line for a while, working with the simple idea of being alone, always in the back of my mind, the nagging feeling I already knew what the opening lines should be. And that's the greatness of this song. I'm going to describe every song on the album, but I could just describe Alone, and that's a slice that represents the whole. This great... listen, ironically, one of the great things about this album is that it used a full orchestra, which was pretty rare at the time for just some random post-punk band. But I love the sound of synth strings, the way it can be used in post-punk. Kind of Twin Peaksy here. Great hard rumbling drums, and the guitars and the toms are rumbling, and there's just so much space. They give so much space to everything. The song is 7 minutes long, and they don't start singing until 3.5 minutes in. And it's not like they're doing crazy stuff here. It's basically 2 chords that end up being 4. It just goes G, F, G, F, G, F, C over E, D minor. That's just it, right? Those are the chords. But it doesn't feel that simple because the drums get bigger and smaller. There's a lot of chimes in this album. I don't like chimes in music, but they're fine here. Really shoegazy. And at 3 minutes and 25 seconds, the voice comes in, and his voice is as strong as ever. Now, I don't know, because his voice is kind of cartoony to me, said the Morrissey fan. His voice is kind of cartoony to me. But is he 20? It's just, can you play a song off of, could this guy not sing whatever was sung off of Boys Don't Cry? I think he could. And this is the end of every song that we sing, starting off a track with saying, "This is the end, the fire burned ash and the stars grown dim with tears. Cold and afraid, the ghost of all what we've been, we toast the bitter dregs to our emptiness." Goth awesomeness, just sad, but it's different. It's different when you're older and you're closer to death. Death is less abstract. It's less, let's put on makeup and a big black wig and sing about how sad we are. It's more like the birds are falling out of the skies and the words are falling out of our minds. These are the next lyrics. And here's to love, to all the love falling out of our lives. Hopes and dreams are gone. This is the end of every song we sing. Where did it go? These are the feelings you get as you get older. This broken voice, this lament to call us home. This is the end of every song we sing alone. And what he says, according to something, was he realized he was inspired by a poem. This all goes together, everybody. You take the Pre-Raphaelites. You take Strong Sad. And this whole album is like Strong Sad Gets Old, by the way. It totally works. You take Strong Sad, and then you take the poetry of Ernest Christopher Townsend. Townsend? Anyways, I'll include a link to the poem, to the poem down here, because I pointed out I'm not an expert on British poetry. I'm not an expert on French poetry, but I've read thousands of French poems. You know what I'm saying? But expert's a big word. So this is the poem that he's referring to. A fairly famous poem by somebody who is more famous for popularizing the expression "days of wine and roses" and "Gone with the wind." Already very clearly a poet who thinks a lot about the passage of time and things ending. And the dregs, this is my coffee. The dregs are the little things at the end that are left. The dregs of life. Here's the poem. The fire is out and spent the warmth thereof. This is the end of every song man sings. The golden wine is drunk, the dregs remain, bitter as wormwood, and as salt as pain. And health and hope have gone the way of love, into dear oblivion of lost things. Ghosts go along with us until the end. This was a mistress, this perhaps a friend. With pale indifferent eyes we sit and wait for the dropped curtain and the closing gate. This is the end of all the songs man sings. Wait, was I actually just reading lyrics off this album? Or was I reading 120-year-old British poem. Ghosts go along with us until the end. This was a mistress, this perhaps a friend. This is the end of this song, man sings. Oh, it's very clearly there. And once again, the first song that includes lyrics that talk about the end. This is the end of every song we sing. The first example of end everywhere here. Next track we get is And Nothing Is Forever. Kind of cheesy, this song. You know, it's a little more like resolution. It's a little bit less minor. It's a little more emotional, you know, and I'm sort of like, you know, I'm sort of like not really. I like it, but not as much as the first one because it's not as dark. It's not as goth, you know. And then I read about it, you know, inside I think the Independent. Was it? I don't know. Some articles, like I think it was the Independent. Trent Krim wrote it, and he said it was about being with somebody while they were on their deathbed. Hold me for the last time in the dying of life. Again, I think we're seeing this with Nick Cave as well. It's really fun. It's really fun to see people who sang about death in youth get older as their relationship to death becomes more real, because it gives us an interesting way of looking at the way our perception of death is so cartoonishly goofy in our youth, and that the older we get, you know, once we lose our parents and other people, you know, how it becomes less abstract and more real. It's a great thing. It's really a great thing. Next track is called A Fragile Thing. Backwards sounds, piano, hi-hat play. I love it. Every single song begins with a couple minutes of instrumental sounds, and every single instrumental sounds are a little bit different, something different instrumentation, great faraway drums, the voice is Cure. Almost Martin Sheffield Lickley singing here, almost a parody of Cure lyrics, right? Like if you asked me to write a parody of a Cure song, every time you kiss me I could cry, she said. Like, that's just, you know, like that. Maybe it's just because Friday I'm in Love was their biggest song and I've heard it like 1,000 times, and every single time there's a friend of mine who's a girl who's telling me, come, like wanting me to dance, you know, like I hear that song start and I just picture, yeah, back, it's like, come dance, you know, I'm just sitting there. Anyways, Don't Tell Me How You Miss Me, I Could Die Tonight of a Broken Heart. It's a little bit more tied into their kind of older stuff, but then it's still got this darkness to it, this love as a fragile thing, and it has an end lyric as well. No, nothing you can do to change the end. So it's about heartbreak, it seems, but is it not also about death? Next track is called War Song, kind of an accordion in the beginning here, languid and tough guitars that sound spacey and metallic at the same time. Tambourine, sort of a slow, I think it's on the one and the three, but it's very kind of slow, like a little march. You just wonder, will the singing ever come in? And this is a song where, like, is this about human folly and the fact that we always go to war and how war is stupid, or is it about a relationship that's falling apart? Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it's about. I think it's about both those things. Oh, what misery the way we fight, for bitter ends we tear the night in two. And of course, the end lyric here is all we will ever know is bitter ends. End. Next track is called Drone, No Drone. Ask your doctor about No Drone. Some side effects of No Drone include detuned bass and sounding kind of like a Tool song in a way. But I love the variation. This is the worst song on the album. I don't even think it's close, because it's like a Cure cover band tried to write a Red Hot Chili Peppers song. Okay, there's something kind of funk about it, something kind of funky monk about it. Not real funk, but funky monk funk. You know what I'm saying? Chili Peppers funk. You know, and the wah-wah pedal and the guitar solo. It's not a bad song. It's still a good song. This is a great album. The worst song is still pretty good. I'm trying to make some sense of it. I guess the explanation is I can't anymore if I ever really could. It's kind of strange to think it takes this long to get misunderstood. I do like this, though. I do like the theme of the song, that, you know, that he's been spending his whole life and he had to work this hard to be misunderstood. Did you know that's like, my greatest fear is sharks and airplanes. But besides sharks and airplanes, it's being misunderstood. You know, like the only reason I fear cancellation is I fear being misunderstood. Like I because I know my heart's good, and like if I ever say something stupid and it's misunderstood, like that's terrifying. That's like, to me, the scariest thing about being online is being misunderstood. And then one of these guitar solos that's just reminds me of late Bowie, so that makes me happy. And I guess it's more or less like ending up as nobody. Okay, next song is called I Never Can Say Goodbye. A little piano melody and these faraway drums. Very simple piano here. Almost like Lick My Love Pump style guitar, like someone who's like not a trained pianist writing a little piano line that's kind of sweet, but then it's so well produced, this drony guitar, and will these voices ever come in? One more, I'm going out there again. Are you ready for me to go out there? I wanted this to be, I was hoping it was going to be a cover of the song Never Can Say Goodbye. I forgot the name of the song. So Never Can Say Goodbye is a song that was written for the Jackson 5, sung by like an 11-year-old Michael Jackson. But I'm thinking of the Isaac Hayes version, because weirdly enough, the same time when I was listening to Wild Mood Swings was the same time I was trying to get into Isaac Hayes. So I was getting into Isaac Hayes, and I bought the album Black Moses. And it has a cover of Never Can Say Goodbye, no, no, oh, no, no. And what I realized is that why do I like this album so much? Why do I like this new Cure album so much? It's what I like about Isaac Hayes. Isaac Hayes is notorious for having songs that are 7 minutes long and the first 6 minutes and 58 seconds don't have lyrics in them. It's just these great sweeping soundscapes. The Cure is like Isaac Hayes. Do you get it? Do you get it? Maybe you don't get it. Just please listen to Isaac Hayes' cover of Close to You. Why do birds suddenly appear? Or listen to the full 10-minute version, however long it is, of Walk On By, and understand what I'm saying. Now listen, I'm not saying The Cure is as good as Isaac Hayes. Almost nothing is as good as Isaac Hayes. But I realize that's the headspace that I like to be in. And I was sort of like, these lyrics are kind of like trite, They're sort of, something wicked this way comes. Oh, wow, quoting a standard Shakespeare. I don't know. I think it's stock. Like, that's what I was saying. I was listening to these lyrics, and I was just going, stock. I hear it as stock. Like, that's what I was saying. And then I read that it was about his brother dying. And I said, oh, damn, because I love my brothers. All my brothers are alive. Thank God, And I don't want to think about my brothers dying. So something wicked this way comes to steal away my brother's life. Something wicked this way comes. That's powerful, really powerful stuff. And I've never heard a song by an old person. By old person, I mean somebody who can qualify for AARP benefits. I'm getting there soon. I'm closer to old than I am to young, but I'm not old yet. I've never heard an old person talk about losing a brother. That's a meaningful song. And strangely enough, even though this is another song about endings, there is no usage of the word end. All I Ever Am is a cover of Popeye, more of a guitar-led and synths way in the back, simple guitar lines going up and down, more chimes. I love the instrumental outro as well with these synth strings, just this breathless singing. And this is maybe the least death-concerned album. This is a little bit more like Drone No Drone, where it's more about how is he perceived. Like, to hold into belief that all I ever am is somehow never quite all I am now. Like, it's about, like, perseverating and always being up in your head and always thinking about how to be better and how to do better. Which, Robert, got you, man. I'm right there with you. And there's no end lyric in this song, except the final words are fear of what I'll find if I just stop. So even in songs that don't use the word the end, we have songs that talk about someone dying and about stopping, which leads to the end song, which, oh my God. So there's these toms at the end of the last song that were very, like, there's a way of playing drums. If you ever played drums, sometimes you kind of get into a mode where, like, toms, do-do-do-do-do. Sometimes toms, do-do-do-do, you just kind of play them as, like, little fills. Sorry, there's a garbage truck somewhere in the back. Actually, it's probably leaf collection. Oh, by the way, we don't rake our leaves in our house. We like nature, man. Nature's good. Leaves are good. Trees are good. I don't do sponsorships. Trees are Anyways, when you're playing drums, like each one like has a note, you can tune them, and you don't like tune them to a specific note, but they have different sounds. So sometimes when you're playing drums, you kind of have fun because you can be like doot 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 you end up sort of like making little melodies out of them. This is that kind of thing at the end of the last song, and then the beginning of this song, it's doing that. And I think it's drum machine sounds. It doesn't sound like acoustic drums, but still, it's very clearly being played by an actual drummer who's kind of listening for the notes in these drum lines. And this song is just so much space. So much space given to this like 10-minute track, and I love it. I love it. It is such a gift when an artist can create an atmosphere and they are brave enough to just dump you in that atmosphere and let you just be there. And challenge you to get tired of it. Challenge of you to say, could we maybe have an upbeat number? But you never do. You're just in this space. You just want to be here. Strong Sad gets old. And I'm outside in the dark, staring at the blood-red moon, remembering the hopes and dreams that I had, all that I had to do, and wondering what became of the boy and the world he called his own. I'm outside in the dark, wondering how I got so old. That's the thing. And a lot of young people watch me, probably more old people watching this video than usual. And by old, I mean like older than 30. Most of my viewers are under 30. It's the thing that a lot of old people tell you, is that like, you don't believe it. You don't believe that you're getting older. Like, you look in the mirror and you see, the wrinkles in your forehead or the gray in your sideburns. And like, it's not how you feel. Like I still feel like I'm 22, Like I still feel that way. It's just my body does not agree. And he's just thinking, and apparently he's remembering. It's interesting. His description, I'm going to quote him again. I found this somewhere on Genius, a quote from Robert Smith talking about the song. I remembered the feeling of like, I don't believe it, talking about the moon landing. Okay? I grew up in the glorious 30 years from the end of the Second World War. The world I was born into is getting incrementally better every year, and it just seemed the world was an upward trajectory, and the moon landing was part of that. Around that time, I turned 16 in 75, and it seemed like the world sort of stalled. It's been traveling down ever since. I teach the 30 Glorious Years. I teach it about France, and it is true. In 75, there was the oil crisis. That's what set off the end of the financial boom of the post-war period. And it is a fair argument to say that from that moment till now has been something of a downward trajectory. Now, that's something that an old person would say, because old people are less, maybe feel less capable of setting the course of the world. But it's an interesting idea that, like, he looked up at the moon as a kid and said, wow, we're up there. And now he looks up at the moon and just says, how did I get so old? Beautiful end lyric, left alone with nothing at the end of every song. The album begins with this is the end of every song, and then now he's left alone, and that's the feeling. It's sweeping, it's sad. Strong Sad gets old. I want to thank my Patreons. I gotta tell you, this might end up being the only Cure album that I own. Now, I don't know what happened to my copy of Boys Don't Cry. That's a hell of a compilation right there. Whew, every single track on that album is just killer. It really is. So they might help me to buy. They're upside down. They might help me to buy this album because I just really enjoy it. I love the soundscape. I also ask for shout-outs, and people get shout-outs sometimes. So Cat Elize has a friend named Blue who's been waiting 16 years for this album. So listen, this is your homework, Blue. What is the best Cure album? If this is not it, what is the best Cure album? Because you know what? I'll buy that on CD, okay? Whatever Cat Elize's friend Blue says is the best Cure album, I will buy on CD. I'll go down to the record archive and buy it, all right? Ben Hall wanted a shout-out, Zach wanted a shout-out, and Jack Dyson wanted a shout-out. Okay. Oh, shit. Where's my baby monitor? I left my baby monitor inside. I have to go. Bye. There's the camera.